Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is 5:34 p.m. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This meeting is officially open with a quorum present. This time we'll call to order the public hearing to discuss the district's 2018 Financial Accountability Rating, School First. Mr. Johnson, are you ready to give the report?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
President Jackson.
And if I may, President Jackson and David, thank you very much. We really appreciate David Johnson, our senior officer for budget and finance, stepping up to make this presentation. Please, board, if you could keep Elsie Shiro and her family in your thoughts and prayers. She lost her mother this week and is in Colorado attending to that, and she'll be back next week. So with that, we'll turn it over to David.
Okay. Tonight we will be presenting the 2018 Financial Accountability Rating issued by the Texas Education Agency. Data used to determine this rating is for the period ended June 30th, 2017. The information is required to be presented annually to disclose the quality of the financial management practices of the district. The purpose of FIRST is to achieve improved performance in the management of financial resources in order to provide the maximum allocation for instruction in the classroom. Fort Worth ISD continuously seeks to improve in this area during the budgeting process annually. The ratings are based on 15 indicators, with a point structure ranging from 0 to 100. There are ratings of A to C with a substandard achievement rating as well. Major areas assessed. There are 5 critical indicators that are pass-fail, solvency indicators, which are really geared towards the overall financial strength of the district. And then there are the financial competence indicators, and those are worth 30 points. The public hearing must occur within the 60 days of the official notification issued by TEA on this rating. The final ratings were issued November 11, 2018. We published in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram on December 1st, and tonight is obviously the public hearing. Additionally, a 2018 Annual Financial Accountability Management Report is available for the public and can be found on the Fort Worth ISD website under the Accounting Department's page. We are happy to announce that for 2018, Fort Worth ISD received an A or a superior rating, scoring 98 out of a possible 100 points. That said, we continue to look for ways to improve in the financial areas of the district. In assessing where we are and looking forward, we look to improve in a couple of areas that were identified in the recent annual audit. One of those is ensuring that supervisors monitor and sign and approve all time cards, and the other area of improvement we're looking for this year is ensuring timely bank reconciliations for the student activity bank accounts. In noting a couple of areas of strength, we look to the addition of the transparency portal recently presented to the Board of Education in the November meeting. We also showed improvement in lowering the administrative cost ratio over the past 5 years from 6.5% to 5.75%. That concludes tonight's presentation.
Thank you. Board, Dr. T.A. Sims, question?
Well, no, I'd just like to say that we made 98. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll hear public comment regarding the financial accountability rating. Is there any public comment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. The public hearing is now. This evening, students from Oakhurst Elementary School will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. In just a moment, Principal Guadalupe Cortez will introduce them, but first, let's stand for our pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Scribner, it is indeed an honor for us to be here this evening. We were very excited to be invited. Tonight, we have our Soaring Eagles Student Council members. They will briefly introduce themselves.
My name is Geraldine Govea. I am a fourth grade student.
My name is Jasmine Ventura, and I'm a fourth grade student, Vice President of Student Council.
Hi, my name is Angel Beltran, and I'm in second grade of Cursico Elementary student.
My name is Nui Olmos, and I'm a fourth grade student.
My name is Sara Puente, and I'm a fourth grade student.
My name's Alondra Avila, and I'm a fifth grade student.
I also want to introduce Ms. Galindo, our student council, and our student council sponsor and our counselor. So Ms. Galindo, if you could please stand. Okay. And we have two very important parents. We have our PTO president, Mr. Beltran, and Ms. Beltran. They are actually my little Angel Beltran's parents, and they're very actively engaged in our PTO and helping us hopefully get to an A this year at Oakhurst Elementary. Thank you all for everything you do, and thank you so much, President Jackson.
Thank you, and thank you, Oakhurst Elementary. Let's give our students one more round of applause. And now Clint Bond from Communications will introduce several recognitions.
President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Scribner, our greeters this evening are from the Army JROTC unit at South Hills High School, where Rodrigo Durbin is the principal. And if the students would stand as I call them, we'll applaud them all at once. Battalion Commander is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ashley Martinez. The Battalion Executive Officer is Cadet Major Orlando Juarez. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Sergeant Major Nina Garcia. The Battalion S1, that means administration, is Cadet Major Dulce Diaz. The Battalion S2, that's intelligence, Cadet Major Melissa Areola. Battalion S3, which is training and operations, is Cadet Major Angela Ramirez. Battalion S5, which is military and civilian operations, is Cadet Major Elizabeth Sanchez. The Army instructor is First Sergeant retired Michael Long. And the senior Army instructor is Chief Warrant Officer, 3rd Class Roberto Grinald. Prior to the meeting, for those lucky enough to have been here, we were entertained with the sounds of the season by the singers from the West Cliff Elementary School. More than 50 members of them are here this evening. Their director is Ellie Schmeltikoff, and the principal is Sarah Gillespie. Would you please thank them for being here? This evening, our volunteer recognition comes to us from Diamond Hill Jarvis High School and Meacham Middle School. Tony Cuestas is here with us. He's over here just behind where we sit at the communications table. Tony Cuestas is an alumnus of Diamond Hill Jarvis. He graduated in 2008 and has been giving back to his alma mater for over 5 years. Mr. Cuestas is part of the Fort Worth Code Blue at School program. The program was founded by the Fort Worth Police Department's Citizens on Patrol, where a group of individuals volunteer their time to help patrol and keep Fort Worth elementary schools safe. He does this for both Diamond Hill Jarvis High School and Meacham Middle School. Not only is Mr. Cuestas making sure students are safe on their way to school, but is also willing to help in any capacity he can. He volunteers as security for nearly all sporting events. He chaperones the fan bus and participates in as many community events as possible. When asked to describe Mr. Cuestas, Diamond Hill Jarvis Secretary Mrs. Diaz says, hardworking, dedicated person, always willing to give more of himself. And Diamond Hill Jarvis Principal James Garcia proudly states, Tony Cuestas is a vital part of the Diamond Hill staff and community. He works tirelessly directing traffic in the mornings and afternoon at Diamond Hill and Meacham as parents are dropping off students. He does all of this as a volunteer. Thank you, Tony Cuestas, for being an exemplary volunteer, helping teachers, ensuring the safety of students, and overall giving back to your community. Family Communications Specialist Jessica Becerra will now present him with a certificate of appreciation.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. And at this time, Trustee Moss will provide comments and a moment of silence regarding the passing of, excuse me, Mr. Ramos? We'll,
No, it's too.
but this is, go ahead, Mr. Ramos. You sure?
Yep.
Okay. We'll start again. Trustee Moss will provide comments and a moment of silence regarding the passing of a former Fort Worth ISD board member and also a state rep, Mr. Reby Carey. Ms. Moss?
Thank you, President Jackson. Fort Worth ISD mourns loss of Reby Carey. The Fort Worth ISD is saddened to learn of the death of former Board of Education member Reby Carey. Mr. Carey died on Friday, December 7th, 2018. He was 98 years old. Mr. Carey became the first African American elected to the Fort Worth ISD Board of Education, and that was in 1974. Think about it. Were you born? That effort was a major milestone for this district. It took courage, it took planning, and it took a vision that would require major changes in the Fort Worth ISD. He was a 1937 graduate of I.M. Turrell High School, which coincidentally was rededicated at the district's Academy for STEM and VPA on the day he passed. Mr. Carey taught history and served as a counselor at Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. He was a World War II veteran, the first black professor at UTA, and a state representative. But the one thing Mr. Carey always did, regardless of what he accomplished, was to acknowledge his God. Without personally saying so, Mr. Carey was the Lord's servant, doing the Lord's work. Mr. Carey was also an author and wrote over 25 books on Black history in Fort Worth. Mr. Carey has several books in our Fort Worth ISD school libraries. Mr. Carey was among the first former students added to the Fort Worth ISD Wall of Fame in 2009. Let us pause for a moment and acknowledge this loss to our school district, our city, and our state. But let us also celebrate that Mr. Carey's was a life well lived. Thank you, President Jackson.
Thank you, Trustee Moss. This concludes our scheduled recognitions. We will take a 3-minute recess so our guests may depart if they so choose.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are back now with number 7 on the agenda, which is Lone Star Governance Gold Seal Programs of Choice. Dr. Scribner, would you like to say a few words before your team presents?
Thank you very much, President Jackson, members of the board, and Fort Worth school community. As you know, the district goals, the board goals, and my performance goals all surround 3 areas: early literacy, middle years mathematics, and college, career, and military readiness. Tonight, we are pleased to provide our final report of the year, and actually the third presentation on this topic this semester. Our Executive Director of College and Career Readiness, David Sines, will be presenting to us with regard to our plans for the future. And as we address this third goal, remember that it also addresses our accountability measures, domains 1 and 3 in the Texas State Accountability System. So with that, we're pleased tonight to bring to you our third and final presentation of the calendar year. And with that, I'll turn it over to David Sines.
Thank you, Dr. Scribner, President Jackson, Dr. Scribner, members of the board. Thanks again for having me back to present this report about our work. As we know, as Dr. Scribner mentioned, our main duty here in our district, our main mission is preparing all of our students for success in college, career, and community leadership. Along those lines, the team has embarked in work over the last few months and actually past couple of years in defining what that meant, analyzing our programming, refining them, designing them, deploying them, all around those 4 pillars of equity, excellence, enrollment, and employability, with a special emphasis on equity and excellence in our programming, making sure that our programming is available to our students all around our district and not just in select areas. We also know, as has been talked about before on several occasions, that this affects our state accountability. Domain 1 and Domain 3 specifically have indicators for college, career, and military readiness that our students have to meet, not should meet, have to meet. So those indicators are, for the Texas Success Initiative, students getting a certain score on SAT, ACT, and TSI, and you see a board item on the agenda today for ACT to offer that to all of our students to help them reach that. Our collegiate coursework, students can earn the indicator by earning college credit. We offer dual credit in the district. We offer AP in our district, and we offer IB. And just recently, you approved a partnership with the University of Texas On-Ramps program, and I'm happy to report that we have over 2,000 students enrolled in that program with the opportunity to gain credit from the University of Texas. We also have a robust CTE program that continues to grow year to year, where their students can earn industry-based certifications, and we're making big strides in making that happen. In addition, we have our military our military indicator, which means if students enlist in the armed forces, they also get counted as college, career, and military ready. We know that our GROTC program is very robust throughout our entire district and included at every high school and every middle school in our system. We are moving towards 100%. We knew that in 2014 we had 104 campuses, 81% of our schools that were meeting standard. And this year we're at 117 campuses that met standard. That's a gain up to 91%, and that's here in 2018. We have to get to 100%. Not because of accountability says so, but because mostly for some other information I'm about to present to you now. What you see before you is a map of the household income for our children here in Fort Worth ISD. If you look at this map, if you look at the middle and the little legend above, it starts at yellow. $44,000 a year is the median income here in Fort Worth ISD. If you go to the right, the higher income brackets, it turns blue and green. If you go down to the red, from yellow it goes to red, all the way down to below $20,000. You also know, if you look at the map, where our circle is for our school district. We have a lot of work to do in this area for our families. While accountability is important, this is the real work that we have to do. We have to improve the upward mobility of our students and our families, and this is one way to do that. In addition, Dr. Scribner has mentioned that our graduation rate mirrors our student reading rate at 3rd grade. Our college graduation rate in Fort Worth as a whole is 31%. If you look at our households of our students of color, our African American household overall college graduation rate is 20%. For our Latino students, 21%. And if you happen to be male, as you can tell, it is a little lower than that. So, with all that information, this is why this is important. As in talking to our principals and to our community, we wanted programs that were connected to the future workforce to impact the data you just saw. We wanted programs that have multiple post-secondary exit points, meaning you can be successful with a certification, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or however much education a certain career allows or needs. We want quality programs that are open to all students at every campus. And we wanted to refocus on our neighborhood schools by replicating our programs. This was a matter of efficiency and excellence, not necessarily about reduction, but about efficiency and excellence for our students. We would take and reduce courses with low enrollment and create clear pathways for our students in order for that to happen. In addition, I mentioned that CTE has experienced a growth every year for the past 2 years, and we're expected to grow again this year, which means more money is coming in to work with this efficiency and excellence effort. In addition, our community made a $750 million promise with our bond in 2017 to address these very programs. So what do? We categorize our programming, and I'm going to talk about these 3 today. Advanced college and career pathways, Gold Seal Academies, and Gold Seal Schools of Choice. The first one is our advanced college and career pathways that are available and will be available, if not already available, at every single high school. Every single high school should have collegiate pathways in AP and dual credit and on-ramps. Every high school should have pathways in fine arts, as we do. We have a wonderful fine arts program. You saw some of that today. And we see it every day, and we've been seeing it down in the main building during our lunch hour to see our different students perform. Public Services and Leadership, our JROTC program. They exist at every one of our high schools, and they also have a 99% graduation rate. That is a leadership program for our students. Our business and management and marketing program is highly enrolled, and it's because our students always say that they want to own their own business. The entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well in our district, and our kids want these programs. Engineering, design, and robotics. That program was so popular as a GSPOC that we needed to expand to all schools. And in order to do that, Lockheed Martin has generously given a grant to expand the Project Lead the Way curriculum to every single one of our high schools. And that will happen starting in 2019. If the students finish this pathway their senior year, they're eligible for an opportunity to intern at Lockheed Martin. This year we have 8 students that are interning there. And of course, our education and training. We're always looking for quality teachers. So why not build a pipeline with our students that live here with us, that understand our neighborhoods and understand our kids and how to educate our students. These pathways, once again, available at every high school for every one of our students, no application necessary. Our Gold Seal Academies, we're more familiar with these through our Gold Seal Programs of Choice, a wonderful program that our students take advantage of every year. These students have to apply to these programs, and they have to attend that school in which that program is located. Fine arts, mariachi, dance, and theater arts and band are available through our fine arts program. Agriculture and animal sciences, our vet tech programs. Advanced media production, AMP, as we know it, over at Southwest. They always do wonderful work. They sometimes help broadcast our board meetings. Our cosmetology program, a very popular program, another entrepreneurial program that allows our students to enter the workforce, pay for college, or wherever it wants to take them. Medical professions, we have partnerships through Cook's Children, and when our students are getting to know the hospitals, addressing our need for more nurses, addressing our needs for different medical professionals. Our Computer and Technology Applications Academy. That's a program that in this whole district and also in the city is needed for our computer technology and our networking, programming. Those programs are all available under that heading. Aviation, our new invigorated partnership with Bell, and we have companies like American Airlines that are knocking on our doors because they need more people to work in that industry. Automotive, new partnerships with Park Place and Sewell, where our students are interning there. If they get hired by those companies, they will pay for their college as they're working through it. And of course, architecture and construction. We're always in need of students to help us build our future, and this program will literally help them accomplish that. Our Gold Seal Schools of Choice, We know these also very well, a very diverse portfolio of our school choice here in Fort Worth ISD. We have single gender academies, Montessori academies, applied learning schools. We have World Languages Institute. We just dedicated our I Am Terrell Academy this past Friday, and several early college high schools. These programs we always have a high number of applications. I just looked at the numbers this year, and those numbers are up and high once again. We need to look at developing a PK through 12 Montessori and applied learning pathway. We also need to explore options for new programs in PK through 8th, and take our models at Trimble Tech and bring in new programming that will lead to high wage and also serve high needs here in Fort Worth ISD. As we're thinking forward to plan for this and look to be efficient with our budget and to develop excellent programs, I propose the following timeline. Present, we are designing and deploying refined pathways every single year as CTE demands that through our federal guidelines. In spring 2019, this coming spring, we will prepare for Gold Seal marketing campaign and campus programming. In fall of 2019, we'll refine our pathways and begin and continue to develop any new strands that we need to develop. This will take time in order to get some of these things going. We must go slow in order to go fast sometimes. In spring 2020, we'll complete the design of our new pathways, and in fall 2020, we'll begin those new pathways that are going to be developed that are included in some of the slides before. As I started the presentation, I talked about our need to get to 100%. We need to very quickly get to 128 campuses that are meeting standard. And college and career readiness is one way to do that. Not only that, getting to 100% for TEA is great. Getting to 100% for our city is better. We, as Dr. Scribner has said on several occasions, as go our schools, goes Fort Worth. College and career readiness is not about TEA. College and career readiness is about our city, it's about our kids. Thank you very much for allowing me to give this report, and we'll open it up for questions.
Trustee Moss.
Thank you, President Jackson. I have a quick question, and I'm not sure if you're working on that or whatever. But when I traveled with Dr. Scribner to one of the programs, I'm traveling so much, for equity, it was Council of Great City Schools. One of the things I heard another school district talk about was they were planning academies and programs that would draw students from other areas into their school district, and also draw their students back from the charter schools. And so my question is, page 13, will any of these programs become academies within a school, or what will we do different that will draw our students back to Fort Worth ISD?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Scribner
sorry.
was listening to that, so.
I believe it was a trip to Missouri, I think Independence School District, I believe it was. I received some of that documentation. And yes, the idea for all this programming is to not only keep our students, but to bring our students back. I would say that out of the 5,300 applications we got this year for Gold Seal Programs of Choice, over 300 of those are for charter schools. But what we need to do is create more opportunities for them to come back and take those opportunities. So these programs with our, for example, our collegiate academies, those can evolve with planning into schools within schools, where students can earn college credit within fields like nursing and work towards an LVN while they're still in high school. So yes, that is the idea, is to make them continue to grow.
Okay, and I'm not sure how you read my mind, but the LVN program, is that with the hospital, or Dr. Sims, do you have that in your school, the medical program?
I have pharmacy tech.
Okay. I thought one of the board members, was that you, Toby, working on the LVN program for nursing?
I'm working on LVN partnership with Cooks that you all are working on with Saturday morning rounds. Is that it, Chris?
So the LVN program could partner through TCC Trinity, and it's really a dual credit pathway or a collegiate academy, and we have had preliminary conversations with TCC Trinity to see what that could look
Okay,
like.
so when they graduate, they'll be able to take the exam
Yes, ma'am.
to become a full-fledged
Yes, ma'am.
nurse?
Yes, ma'am. There's models in other districts that already do that, and we can
Yes.
definitely replicate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Moss. Trustee Needham.
Thank you, President Jackson. Ms. Moss, those were good questions. Mr. Sines, I'm really happy to see all the advances we're making. Hope we continue to add and evaluate what we have, and perhaps the ones that don't have any interest, we change them and add some new ones. Could you send us information on the UT on-ramps program?
Certainly,
I
definitely.
don't remember seeing that.
Certainly. I can get you information. Yes, ma'am.
On page 8, could you also send us information on Anglo graduation rates?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks again for the great presentation.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Trustee Needham. Trustee Dr. Sims.
I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. Sines, for this presentation. And I would also like to encourage us to continue to work hard and make sure that we are passing these tests that require state exams, because once we get a state license, it can serve you a lifetime. And I appreciate all this work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of quick questions. One, the pharmacy tech, they have to be 18 to take that exam.
Yes, ma'am.
When they graduate and they're 17, how do we refresh them so they can take the exam when they're 18, or do we refresh them?
We are, right now, at the moment, we hadn't refreshed them. We have developed a program where we keep them engaged with us throughout that summer so they can turn 18 and have them to test. That's, so a lot of, especially our medical certifications, they have to test after 18. So we have to develop mechanisms to keep them engaged with us during the summer so they can go test. And that's how we're approaching it, like a summer program.
Great, thank you. And then the second question is, well, first, you answered every question I had except these two, so thank you. And I had a lot of questions, and then the presentation just kept building. Internal partnerships within Fort Worth ISD, any of our programs that we have, be it communications, are they working with Ms. Griffith and her team? Accounting, anything like that, anywhere they can work within Fort Worth ISD, the city of Fort Worth, and Tarrant County, because those are all taxpayer funded, and so are we. So I don't know, are those partnerships being investigated, or are they already here?
There's already some in place, and that's one area that we are going to grow quickly in the next few years. And just for the communications office alone, they always support our students through the AMP program. And another way is through our education program. We have a lot of our students that go to our elementaries already to serve down there. And we've had preliminary talks with Mr. Cavazos to see how we can impact some of his programs as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Trustee Moss has a question.
Not really a question, but I wanted to say thank you for working with all of our programs and ensuring that all of our high schools will have the programs in place and not just some. So I just want to congratulate you and say thank you, because we've not always had an individual to look at all of our high schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for a great presentation. And how long have you been with us? Because it seems like you've done quite a bit of work in a short amount of time.
Well, with Fort Worth ISD is my 5th year.
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
And we're very pleased with David's work, most recently with regard to the secondary level. Another point I just wanted to highlight moving forward as we plan for the future. We talked a lot about high schools. Ms. Moss's point, to have high-quality options in every neighborhood. at every high school, because a lot of these CTE and programs and schools of choice can prepare students for high-need, high-wage jobs right out of high school. But another piece, too, is on page 14, we talked about the pre-K 8 opportunities, and then pre-K 12 with Montessori. We wanted to make sure that we had followed up with a parent meeting regarding Montessori at pre-K 4, applied learning in the middle years and into the high school years as one option. Another possibility that we are exploring, and I've charged Ms. Molinar and Mr. Cavazos to work with Mr. Ramos on the Strategic Facilities Master Plan to look for space, is to explore options for K-8 opportunities, one in each of the 4 regions, on the north side, and South Fort Worth, east side, and west side, to look for opportunities for pathways for STEM, and then also pathways for dual language and bilingual. Families and parents from every corner of Fort Worth have asked for that opportunity. So those are 2 items that we're going to be coming back to report to you on in the future.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. At this time, we will hear public comment. Let me remind you that because of restrictions by the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members may not engage in a verbal exchange about a subject that has not been posted. We will listen and we will take notes, but the board is prohibited from responding to any inquiries made during a board meeting on any topic not posted on the agenda. However, the board may reply with 1, a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, 2, recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry, or 3, direct the person to visit with staff about the issue. While this board listens to concerns of a general nature and issues of common and individual concern, this board will not hear complaints about specific individual employees or public officers during the public comment session. Speakers, please refrain from mentioning names of individual employees or public officers during your comments. Any employee, parent, or other member of the public is asked to comply with the appropriate grievance policy to have a complaint heard pursuant to the applicable board policy. In accordance with Board Policy BED Local, speakers shall have a 3-minute time limit, and we ask that you observe this rule. Furthermore, a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another speaker. Delegations of 5 or more persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the board with a time not to exceed 5 minutes. Our first 2 speakers are Janie Ginn and Andrew Davidson.
Good evening, Dr. Scribner, President Jackson, members of the board. I wanted to come to you. I really appreciated Mr. Sines' presentation tonight. I think that that is an excellent direction for our district to be headed toward. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things, tweaks, shall we say, that you might want to be considering, especially, as we're looking at next year. I just was going through the standards of practice for the board today and remind you of a couple of things. It says all our decisions will be based upon what is good for children and what will benefit all children. And then our one and only agenda is the improvement of all students' learning and development. And we will work on changing those things that hinder our work on improvement of student learning. This year, a decision was made to shorten the class periods at the secondary level. And I hope that there will be some very hard looking at that change, because it's been what I have observed. This is kind of causing a lot of stress among our students. We have a lot of students who actually receive an accommodation for extra time on testing. So think of that, every class period, they're being rushed. They have made those comments that we don't have time to get our stuff done. And actually, it's very difficult for the teachers to get in everything that they need to during that, well, it's supposed to be 45 minutes, but it factors down to about 35, maybe, if you're lucky. And so there's that, and I really do wish that you would look at that. And the other thing is technology. I am getting very disturbed. These students are almost to the point of addiction with their phones and their technology. We're now doing the Chromebooks, the one-to-one. I know that's one of the consent agenda items tonight. And it's not, the vast majority, I would say, is not for educational purposes. And because of the rushed periods of the day, there's not even as much time for kids to learn good research techniques and, just reading. And we need to improve those writing scores. And the best way to do that is for kids to be reading and getting those good examples. So just consider those things. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Ginn. Andrew Davidson and Carla Morton.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? If I'm too loud, please let me know. I spent enough time in combat, my hearing isn't real good. Give me 1 second, please. I want to start the clock here to make sure we are on track. I've had to redact this a little bit to remove names, despite it being specific to some individuals. I want to thank you all for hearing me this evening. My name is Andrew Davidson. I'm going to start this with my phone number is 817-983-1409. And my email is davidson66@hotmail.com. I'm coming before you to make known my continued grievances against Fort Worth ISD, as they are growing in nature and in severity. I have discovered that Fort Worth ISD appears to have violated state and federal laws and acts in place to protect students within this ISD. Repeated requests for meetings, resolution, or completion of investigations have gone ignored and unanswered, even by staff in this room. These span, to date, and the evidence is here, 23 months as of the 23rd of next month. And there are still no responses, no conclusions of any of these investigations. The ISB appears to have violated students' disability rights under the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act, Every Student Succeeds Act. The Fort Worth ISD appears to have continued to be out of compliance with state law in all of these manners. Fort Worth ISD staff and others, including the discipline hearing staff within Fort Worth ISD, appear to be in violation of the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA, as set forth by federal law. The ISD staff appears to be in violation of basic ethics, and I'm requesting an investigation into the ethical practices, of which are going to be also requested by the Office of the Attorney General and the Public Information Act, as they function as a watchdog on these very issues. Fort Worth ISD appears to have also violated the Open Enrollment Act on 2 separate counts on 2 separate campuses. And to date, there are no consequences for those actions. And those grievances have been fed up through this board. All of this is not new information for anybody within a position of authority. And to date, there are no consequences for any of this. The staff that have committed these offenses that resulted in material consequences against my children, and I'm not talking 1 or 2 children. I have 4 children in this ISD, all 4 of them at separate campuses, and all 4 of them have experienced grievous
Time, please.
Time is 2:57. I have 1 minute, 32 seconds. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
My apologies.
Thank you. Carla Morton and Jason Amon.
Hello, me again. Just 4 weeks ago, I shared my concerns with this board about how a young special education student had been forgotten for an entire day on a Fort Worth ISD school bus. And I expressed fear that it was not an isolated incident, but was a symptom of a broader problem regarding student safety. Last week, a first grader wandered out of his classroom unnoticed, left school grounds, and was in the street for several minutes before being discovered by maintenance workers who finally brought him inside the school. The temperature was in the 30s that morning. And this incident is especially personal to me because this little boy is my patient, and I am the one who diagnosed him with autism. When we created the Special Education PTA, we specifically did not want to spend all of our time addressing individual parent complaints. I have my own son's ARD meeting on Friday, and I don't have time to go to a bunch of extra meetings. However, when it comes to basic safety for special education students, we cannot remain uninvolved. And if we do not feel confident that our children will receive a basic level of care while at school, well, I guess this is where we are. I do not care how many third graders can read on grade level if I have to worry whether or not our kids are going to come home alive at the end of the day. Addressing this student's individual situation is a necessary first step, but it is only a first step. Considering how frequently we are hearing about these situations, I am becoming more convinced that a significant systemic problem exists. And if you just fix the weaknesses at one school, it's only going to happen at another campus later on. The district must do more for our special education students. Not only does it affect whether or not they will achieve their potential, but it is a question of life and death. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Amon and Ed Austin are our final two speakers this evening.
I'm Jason Amon of 1404 South Adams Street, and I'm here once again to speak to Dr. Scribner and the Honorable Board about special education. I see disability rights on a continuum from exclusion to inclusion. Institutionalization is an extreme example of exclusion, and while those have gone away, examples of exclusion remain. At the other end of this spectrum is inclusion. In an inclusion classroom, kids with disabilities are educated side by side with their non-disabled peers all day, every day. Rather than pull a kid out to receive services, those same services are pushed into the general ed classroom, even if that means adding an additional full-time special ed teacher. This is a win for kids with disabilities who get exposed to the full depth and breadth of the curriculum, whether they can master it or not. Equally important, it gives them an opportunity to bond and socialize with their non-disabled peers in ways that are impossible when they drop in and out of the classroom. It's a win for kids who are struggling. They also benefit from the supports and services. It's a win for kids who are not struggling, but who nevertheless learn compassion for the beautiful diversity of the human condition. It's a win for the gen ed teacher who has extra help. It's a win for the administrators who get to be leaders not in the state, because in Texas that would be damning you with faint praise, but in the nation. My son Nate has an intellectual disability. This very day we had the ARD meeting that removed him from a self-contained classroom so that he could join a fourth grade inclusion classroom at Daggett Elementary. For this, everyone involved deserves the highest praise and my eternal gratitude, but it's not enough to shut me up. I'm asking for more, not for my kid, but for the other kids whose parents aren't as resourceful or persuasive. From Dr. Scribner, I'm asking for an inclusion classroom at each grade level at Daggett Elementary starting next year. From this board, I'm asking for enough money to fund that. I don't want special ed to be a place where parents send their kids because they have to, not because they want to. For gifted kids, there are choices, initiatives, and programs that people want to be a part of. All I ask is something equitable for kids with disabilities. Special ed was excluded from the last State of the District production, and as well as tonight's presentation. I want a program so aspirational, so inspirational, so special that it genuinely warrants inclusion in those presentations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Austin?
Mr. President, I want to share some content with you, if it's okay, to the superintendent.
To hand it to us? Yes. Do you want to just pass it down? Thank you.
Good evening to the board, president, superintendent, vice president, and the rest of the board members. I'm here in reference to the date of November 27th. Ominous call from my daughter, which attends Greenby Trimble Tech. Very unpleasant call I received that day. And then as you look at the content that she wrote in this particular statement, I was very alarmed, highly upset to hear fear, distress, anxiety, hurt, pain, everything the negative that could come out of a child that practically has done nothing. I proceed to call the administrators of the school to discuss the matter. Was denied a conference with this particular instructor of English, which is totally direct violation of subchapter 26, my parental rights. Told, nah, Mr. Austin, you can't talk to this teacher that violated my child's rights. It felt like that she was in danger from this particular teacher at the particular time. I received that call at 9:15, which I was at work at that particular time. His ethics and conduct is totally not within his contract. Texas Code 21-041, Chapter 247, Educator Code of Ethics. I don't understand when I watch my superintendent dismiss administrator of a highly ranked campus for less, for a matter of opinion, of gender identification. But this man come to my child, stand over her like she's inhuman, threaten her well-being, pick up her books and throw them out the classroom. And I get a phone call with her screaming, yelling, telling me about this individual. And only thing it seemed like to me is been passed the buck. Mr. Superintendent, I didn't go to the news media like I could. I didn't contact the individuals like I could have, because I'm trying to do this the right way. But do not push me, sir. Do not push me to the point where we have to go into that arena, because this guy was wrong and he's still on my taxpayers' dollars getting paid. He's saying, now, sir, you're going to listen to this today, Mr. Bond. This is wrong.
Mr. Austin,
This is wrong.
you've got 15 seconds. I'll extend to you.
Okay. But this guy needs to be removed based on he broke his moral codes and ethics in the contract. And this guy's still on the payroll. That's not right. That's not right. And she has to look at this man every day on that campus.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. We will now recess and reconvene in the board conference room. In accordance with the open meetings law, the board opened the meeting at 5:34 PM in the boardroom with a quorum present, recessed to open session in the boardroom, and is now reconvened at 6:42 PM in open session in the board conference room. Are there any questions regarding our consent agenda items? Ms. Moss? Mr. Robbins and then Ms. Moss?
Thank you, President Jackson. On item 11B3, how many computers are we buying with this purchase?
It's 34,000.
34,000?
34,000.
Okay.
And what will that do, all the middle schools?
This will provide a Chromebook to every 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12th grader.
Wow.
We're refreshing all of the high schools. Those were purchased 4 years ago, so this would set us for the next 4 years.
Thank you.
We do have 11,000 that'll augment those 34,000 already in stock.
Thank you, thank you. The other item on item 11I, the rent for the adult ed and the community centers, do we have any facilities agreements with the city where they pay us for the use of our facilities? I mean, why are we paying them?
Because we always pay them.
The taxpayers are paying each other. It just doesn't seem right.
Mr. Robbins, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. I think it was that, why are we paying when?
Why are we paying rent for the use of the community centers for adult ed?
This is a contract, actually, that Ms. Lewis, our new Director of Adult Education, was sharing with me that we've had for a number of years. It was decided with our council that we would bring it to the board. To answer your question, I'm not exactly sure if we have agreements with. Thank you.
Certainly, we do have agreements where we pay, where they're a quasi, for instance, the stock show will partner, certainly the Colonial. There's a lot of events where there are charges, and there's events where there are no charges. For instance, in adult ed, we have Fire Station number 10 that they've been renting to us for $1 and have actually deeded to us. So it kind of depends on the budgets and the situation, but it's something, that we constantly talk about when we meet with the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Trustee Moss?
My question is about the congressional program. I wanted to know just a little more. I'm looking for it. It was E, approved memorandum of understanding, establishing FWISD ISD as a partnering organization of the congressional award.
And after Mr. Carroll responds, I've got some items I'd like to read in response to that question.
You know, Mr. Ramos, I already told Dr. Scribner I thought you'd want to respond anyway, so if you want to go ahead, go ahead.
I've got some notes here. Mrs. Moss, this is a congressional award that's the only one awarded by Congress. The first, one of the main points. FWISD ISD was selected nationally to pilot this program and will become the national model for other urban school districts. And then I understand that our first school is going to be at World Languages Institute. And so I've got some other points, but I'll make those after, if you've got some other details you'd like to add to that, Mr. Carroll.
What I wanted to know was.
Yes, ma'am.
It talked about they had to complete something, or they had to be, once they go through the program, before they become interns.
So, when you go through the paperwork, Ms. Moss, the work that we do with the Congressional Award Foundation, it's really focused on students and leadership, focusing on them developing themselves to their fullest potential, working toward their lives after they get out of school, and understanding that the district, with the cooperation of the Congressional Award Organization, I think that's what they call it, our United States Congress, can facilitate that development. And then once they, if you look over, I think it's on page 62.
Well, I read all of that.
Yes.
And it also made a statement about staff would be trained. Did I read that correctly? Who would be? Or?
So.
I'll be happy, go ahead.
Is it okay if I
Sure.
call on Mr. Mateo Magdaleno?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Elda
because
Rojas? They're
I'd
very
recommend it.
familiar.
Yeah,
Yes.
I read
Yeah.
it, but I need to kind of make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, no, I think these are the perfect
I
individuals to
think you have the
explain that.
sources of information here, Ms. Moss.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, just really short, like 2 minutes. 'cause
You
I
don't need
read
to,
all-
oh, she knows I'm a speaker. You see Mrs. Moss, she knows me. She said, you got 2 minutes. Yes,
Right,
ma'am.
because I read all
Yes,
the
ma'am. You gotta wrap it up.
But I think it says something about you would train the individuals or some of the staff.
And by the way, you were a recipient of this, is that correct?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Magdaleno?
So I have the honor of sitting, I'm one of the 24 people nationally to represent the Congressional Award Board here tonight. And so it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you all this evening. So the 5 people that we have already is actually going to be under the leadership of Lupe, which is back there with World Leadership, with the World Language Institute. And so there's no new staff members. This is going to be with the existing program that they have already. So it's things that we've been working throughout the last 3 months along with Elda and our senior staff members here. So there's no be
That was my
anything
concern,
additional.
Making sure that they had the individuals trained.
Yes, ma'am. So someone would be coming in from Washington DC to do that training, to ensure that before we launch it, to make sure that that everyone is trained and know exactly what to expect. And as was already alluded to, it's all around leadership and public servant leadership. So
Okay, well, thank you.
absolutely, it's my pleasure.
And if you wouldn't mind, how many hours of service, community service, does this entail?
So it's a span of 2 years, and after the students complete the 2 years, they receive what is called the U.S. Congressional Award Gold Medal. And so this is the highest award that Congress gives to our young people in the country by senators and members of Congress. So once they complete it, and what they try to do is they teach the students how to be well-rounded. So it's not only about public service, but it's also about physical fitness, because that's some about babies. Okay. Yes. So physical fitness, personal development, and an expedition exploration. And for a lot of our students, is exposing them to things that they've never been exposed to in the past.
Good, thank you.
So if I make another point of privilege, one, Ms. Elda Rojas, thank you so much for your leadership in everything you have done with educate me and exposing me to what this is, and of course with Mateo. Thank you so much for being here this evening to elaborate on that. And also, I understand that some folks may be tuning in on a national level, as there's a lot of excitement that Fort Worth ISD will again not be following other districts, but we will be leading in this endeavor. And so one of those individuals, Erica Hayes, is that correct? So thank you all for the work that you've done and bringing this forward. So no questions, just wanted to give some commentary to that.
No, thank you. Mateo, when I saw you, I knew something good was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to be super good. Thank you for being here.
And I will say it was competitive, because they were considering many school districts across the nation, in Chicago, LA, Miami,
Oregon.
New York, where?
Oregon, New York.
Oregon, New York. The competition was really strong, and we kept pushing for Fort Worth ISD, so it is a good.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Fort Worth ISD.
Yeah, this is cool.
That's it.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. Needham?
Someone explain to me, consent agenda, it's on page 50. Which one? It's right before the one Ms. Moss just asked about.
Future project, 11D.
11D, 12D. Approved TNTP memorandum of understanding for Tarrant County landscape.
Sure, Mrs. Needham. Here in the Tarrant County region, we have a number of funders that have been looking at recruitment of teachers, not just in Fort Worth ISD, but in the entire area, looking at a study of what are our needs in specific staffing areas, and then what are school districts doing to recruit teachers, where are we getting the best teachers from, so we can look at additional resources to bring more teachers in. This is something that is funded through philanthropic giving. They needed to do a memorandum of understanding with Fort Worth ISD to look at our data so they could see where we in fact are hiring teachers from. And so this is just your approval to be able to share data with TNTP to be able to complete that study. We'll get those results back and it'll help us in the recruitment of teachers moving forward.
Okay, any other questions?
What does that have to do with landscape?
When we talk about the landscape, we're talking about what it looks like across the entire region. So looking at where we're getting teachers from the entire region.
Okay, thank you.
Great, yes, ma'am.
You thought we were xeriscaping, Ms. Needham?
You had to say that, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought you were excited for a moment. Thought we were going to do water-free. All right. Any other questions? Then this will conclude discussion of agenda items. We'll now recess for executive session in this board conference room as authorized by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code under 5510724 4, and 6. Is
Who's excited?
Hold the tracker, okay?
Here we go. Congratulations!
We are very excited to win the $100,000 from Reliant Gives. It's a great opportunity for us to identify those programs that work and take them to scale.
And each person can vote one time per day, and they were able to win the $100,000 grants. There were two other recipients. One earned $10,000 and the other $20,000.
It's a big deal. $100,000 is a huge deal for us.
What crayon is this?
And Reed Fort Worth will put it to great work, and it'll just help drive forward our initiative of 100 by 2025.
Everybody mobilizing every potential resource. Go from last place to first place, it really means that this community knows how to rally around what's important.
Reed Fort Worth is now focused on maximizing our success and identifying what works, investing in that so it can spread across the district.
$100,000 is all about funding the strategies that we know work for the success of our kids.
Thank you so much.
Hi, welcome. Would you like a map?
We want people to know that Fort Worth is a destination district. All of our schools that have a Go Seal program of choice
Do that online with that.
are represented here today. And so what they do is they come out, and our families and our parents and our schools, they set up their tables. Our parents get to come around and check out all the different programs, all the way from elementary to high school, from Montessori to early college. And they